Mm.
We're
So,
live. We're
yeah,
live. We're gonna talk about so much vagina.
exactly. So, for anybody that um, is tuning in randomly, we're going to talk about the book, The Haunted Vagina. Um, oh gosh, who was it by? I can't remember his name.
Carlton Millick the third. I don't know if I said his last name correctly. Uh, but yes, that is the author. And apparently this book is like part of this whole underground genre called bizarro fiction. And the way I was introduced to it was when Rhiannon had talked about it during a sprint. And during one of my sprints, I spent that whole 25 minutes digging deeper into this haunted vagina and what it was about.
That's fantastic. I love it. Yeah. Um, I guess it. I think Melik's the right way to pronounce it. Yeah. Um, I found it because of a random Facebook post, and I went checking out the Goodreads um,
Oh, yeah. That's like
reviews,
the first thing you do.
and they didn't disappoint. That's for sure. There was no disappointment in those reviews. Mm, they were explicit, and most of it was don't do it. They'll read this. It's gonna hurt your brain.
But we're rebels.
Yes, and
And we did it.
my first question right from chapter 2, why is his lip crusty?
Right. That's what I thought too. And I'm like, and she lets you down there?
You got crusty lips, and she's letting you anywhere near
uh,
any of it?
but the character Stacy gets turned on by, I mean, she got turned on by the idea of a person coming out of her, I guess. Like there were a lot of things that he would kind of, so she probably was turned on by the crusty lip.
I don't
um
oh, well,
It
I
was
mean,
kind of a romantic story. I mean, so Steve is the main character, and he talks about the relationship, how they met, takes place in Portland, um, and they met on a bus, sleeping on the bus together, and then that's how they developed this relationship. And he genuinely loves her. He loves Stacy. Um, there are some things that she did though that I was like, "That is kind of shitty, Stacy."
yeah,
Like Stacy, you can't just go around forcing people you love to enter your vagina. Like
I know. I'm there were definitely, I mean, can you imagine chasing somebody around, insisting that they climb into your vagina? I just
get in here. Like she was really adamant too that I mean,
what?
I can't blame her. She was curious. Um
I mean,
Also,
yes.
how do you not tell? I mean, she's known since her whole life that she's had something a mist in her nether regions.
Yeah.
So how do you not date someone you like super love and not tell them I think my vagina is haunted? And how did he not kind of notice they were together for 3 years before they moved in together? You've been down there like this whole time with your
Yeah.
crusty lips. Maybe the skeletons were like, "Oh no, he has crusty lips. We are not coming out for for this guy."
I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing was an exercise in weird. The other thing that caught me in the very beginning of the book is ghost breath against the tip of my dick.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would be concerned about that too.
Hello, Evelyn. How are you?
Hi. Welcome. We're talking about ghost breath on the tip of things.
Yes. And
um,
in chapter 3, all I have is just a shocked face for my notes. That was my whole note. Just a shocked, like open mouth, eyes wide open face. That's what I drew for my notes.
is that when the skeleton comes out?
It might be. I don't
Brings a whole new term to skeletons in the closet. Like now you have to ask people, are you hiding skeletons in your vajayjay?
Yeah, right? Let me refresh myself.
I did make some highlights on my Kindle. Some quotes.
Okay, I chapter 3 is where they I believe it's like after the creature has cut the skeleton has come out of her, and
Yeah.
he didn't want to have sex with her anymore after that. He was like, nope, nope, I'm out, I'm out.
I don't know what's in there. I'm scared.
Yeah. and and she's like convincing him that he should go down on her, and she's like, I'll keep my legs closed. Oh wait, no, it hadn't all the way come out. It was like a hand or something had come out, and he freaked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like during this, so like another thing that was about Stacy was that she really convinced him to want to have oral sex when he didn't want to.
Yeah.
And she Stacy was very
Stacy was very problematic in a lot of ways, and I found
yeah.
big problematic in some of the same ways, because like she just throws him down a whole mine shaft until he is okay with belonging to her. And I feel like that's not okay. And a lot of Stacy's behaviors were not okay in
Mhm.
any way. I mean, and that's not even counting the fact that she's like running around telling him he has to go spelunking in her vagina.
Here's some climbing gear, here's some walkie-talkies, here's
Yeah,
some clothing. I and that's not even like at the beginning of the book. I mean, I have so many questions about this wall he climbed.
right. And how come part of it bled? Did that hurt her? Like when he
Yeah,
I'm so confused by it.
because I was hurt by that.
Yeah,
I was like, I
and
hope.
it's and oof, the
Yeah, the
stretchy like
stories.
rubber got me as well. I was kinda like, "What?"
Okay, so when you had talked, okay, so sprinting time, when we were sprinting and you were talking about it and you read the scene where he opens up the rubber lips and it snaps together. I thought of Pretty Woman when she's about to grab and he goes, that was like in my head. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, it's cute. I'm going to read this book. So that went into my mind. And then when I got to that part, it just led down a whole other
I know.
rabbit hole to,
It's
yeah.
yeah, the reading the review did not in any way prepare me for the twilight zone that this whole book ended up being.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I also did. Okay. So, look, at the beginning of the book, he's talking about how they met, how they fell in love. And it does start off with chapter one, like the very first page, where he's like, oh my God, I hear something. And she's like, oh my God, it's not in the wall, silly. It's in my vagina. Like, that's how I imagine her saying it because she's all like, you know, Stacey, she's, she's a free spirit. I feel like she's very she sounds like she's ditzy, but she's very assertive of herself.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very sure of herself. She's also assertive, and there's all these quirks he likes about her. But straight from the beginning, she's like, it's my vagina."
It's haunted.
Yeah, I mean, since I was like forever. And how like her other boos had never had an issue with it, and all these other things. Oh, and then we get the backstory from her about her vajayjay, her haunted vajayjay, and how she would charge people in college to come listen to, and that's how she was able to make extra income. I will say though, I mean, you know, nice side hustle for her. Good for her. She found a way to
I
make
mean,
money.
yeah, but it also left me with questions. I mean, like, were they, like, ear flush to skin? Was she wearing leggings? I hope she was wearing leggings if she was having all those dirty boys up against her.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Oh God.
something.
And so that's the history that we're given. And then after that, he doesn't want to have sex with her. He's very timid. He's scared because he thinks of ghost breath whispering on his penis. And he doesn't know. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to stick my penis in something if I was unsure was at the end of it. So Stacy has a talk with him and she's like, I'm super horny. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And she kind of talks him into having like just oral sex. And while she's climaxing, that's when a skeleton hand comes out of her vajayjay. And instantly I was like, ow. First of all, skeletons are not flesh. I
Yeah, and,
was like,
like, I just the
so
phalanges
this
especially are pretty pointy, and
mhm.
if it's clawing its way out.
Yeah. And she's just like kind of shocked by it. I mean, okay, I was trying to have a visual, not an inappropriate one, but I was just trying to visualize. Okay, laying down, and then there's just a hand coming out, and then the skeleton, like his head comes out, and he's like, hello. Like she's giving birth to the skeleton, and then he starts, and the way he describes it is like her stomach expands, and uh he's like she's giving birth to this thing, and I was in so much pain. I mean, I don't have any children, but, but to give birth to a skeleton.
And, I mean, when a person is pregnant, like, the skin stretches, kind of slowly over a period of months, but it still hurts to for everything to stretch like that because your skin's just not prepared. Um,
Hmm.
and
Stacy's
it's like,
was.
yeah, I guess maybe her belly was made of rubber like her badge lips were.
Yeah, rubber vagina.
Yeah, I mean,
There's so much rubber in this story, even like the description of Fig.
yes. I will say my favorite part was when his skeleton, like, crawled out of his body and, like, started trying to bite
Yeah.
him. I love that.
Okay. So there's there's some thoughts on that too. So those other skeletons that were in her vagina, we're skipping ahead a little, like a lot of bit, but were those other people that also traveled and their skeletons separated?
I mean, did they crawl which who did they crawl up in?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so and according to Steve, like we're in his head, and his theory is that this little world has been traveling through generations of her family. So, look, pardon my French, but like bitches just be letting people crawl in their vagina and living. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
come with
where did all
me.
this energy come from? And
I
the
know.
way he said it, there was, like, a lot. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't like, 10 or 15, which is a lot, but, if it's been passed down through generations, okay. Okay, but if there's, hundreds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, so this we're introduced to this skeleton coming out. Skeleton doesn't make it all the way out because Steve is like grabbing a lamp and bashing his head and killing the skeleton, and the skeleton falls out and dies on the ground into like a little muck mess.
Yeah,
And then they're freaked out, they leave, and they go to this really cool bar, and I'm gonna say it's really cool because it's a real bar. I looked it up. Like, if there's anything I got out of this book, it's where I'm gonna go in Portland one day. But yeah, it really is an elementary school that was turned into a bar slash theater, a hotel, and I was like, "That's cool," but it's unrealistic because you wouldn't be able to get a hotel room that night. Let's be real, Steve.
yeah,
They wouldn't have a room available. That place is too cool. But this was in 2006. So this is when the book was published. And it's just making its rounds through everyone. I mean, we got caught wind of it.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
honestly, this isn't the first time I've heard about it, but it is the first time I've actually read it and, like, pursued learning more about it, and,
mhm.
I don't know, I think maybe I'm following the wrong impulses now because, and, there's when after she's basically forced him into going spelunking up in her vagina, um, and there's that part where he's it's something about he kinda gets stuck and she, like, jumps up and then jumps down on him,
Oh
and
god,
I cringed.
I hurt.
Yeah, I was I was just like, "No woman is gonna do that, sir. No, 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 you don't know how any of this works."
Osically, sorry. Also, how does that work if your legs are like this and you have a person in you and then you jump? No.
I mean,
Like, was
yeah,
she a gymnast?
I don't know, and, plus she's got, like, this is like a full-grown man, so anywhere from 150 to 200 plus pounds hanging out of her vag. How did she stand? She's lifting
Yeah.
up her weight and his, and apparently jumping and
And it's not hurting her. As a matter of fact, it's turning her on because she begins to masturbate in order to get him to go in there. And the further he goes in, the more she starts to climax. And he's even registering this and he's like, WTF? like like he's scared of hurting her, but he's also kind of like I and the way he's describing it too, he's like, "I'm just trying not to suffocate against this wall of flesh." Oh
yeah,
god.
and then as he's out on the other side after getting ejected, um,
Oh, yeah, because she does climax, and then it helps him go into I'm so sorry, Carrie.
we're a little
And
scarred from the book.
we read it, so yeah, I was telling Rhiannon before we logged on, I've never done like acid in my life, but I feel like this is a very close experience to actually partaking in drugs.
And having a bad trip because this does not sound like a good trip.
Yeah, because there's climbing. I don't know. There's I don't even know how to. That's like a whole other thing.
Eh,
So he falls into this magical world that is like a forest, and there's no clouds, and there's no sun.
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, my husband's gonna read it next, so I kind of feel like, oh my god, am I
My husband, I told him about it, and he's like, "I'm not ever gonna look at that book."
He was like, "I'm down for it," because, we grew up watching, like, cheesy B-rated, horror films. That was, like, our thing. So I think this is kinda like the book you would find in the video store and the B-rated films. And the word my husband used for it was that it's campy, it's meant to be, like, tongue in cheek. Of course, it's not meant to be like the next Jane Austen literature.
No, no.
It's really meant to just be
She
a
has a
funky story.
whole
We never got that far. We just know that she definitely knows how to
And
have
she
an
has
actual
termites.
person enter.
She
What
has
was that?
termites. The fence, remember the fence? When he was gonna use the fence as a ladder, but he said it had been eaten away by termites.
Yeah, so she has all sorts of things there. I mean,
She has
she has a
termites.
cabin, she has a forest.
Yeah. She has a whole
And
a town.
so this is the first time he makes it into her vajayjay, and then he forces his way out, but the way he does it is he climbs this wall to the hole that he had been pushed out of, and as he's climbing this wall, he's using an axe to help him, and then the walls are bleeding, like, the cliff is
Yeah.
bleeding, and ow. And we never find out if she could feel that because
No, he never mentions whether or not.
yeah, they don't because she does tell him, Stacy tells Steve that she could hear him and she could see him like get little as she's entering her
Yeah.
womb. Um and he escapes her vagina and she's like, "You're going to go back in there." And he's like, "No." Oh, and the first time he didn't want to go back in. And it didn't really like work out as planned and he like she takes scissors and she starts shaving his head to make him more lubricated to go in and
Further.
everything. Yeah, and she's just like, "No, you're going to go in my vagina." Like there's
Yeah.
no discussion about it. And that was really rude, Stacy. You don't just like demand someone go into your vagina. Like that's very rude and
Yeah.
considerate.
It's, it's problematic on a whole other level to force somebody up in there. Um,
I did find that to be problematic how she didn't give Steve a choice and he was real adamant about not wanting to do any of that stuff.
yeah,
And then that led to some consequences. The second time Steve goes into her
that's it. He's
the
stuck.
JJ, he never comes back, never comes out. He's
Yeah.
gone
Yeah.
forever
Loses his
in
whole
that little
fucking
world.
skeleton. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
it comes
skeleton
out
comes
and
out of
starts
his
trying to bite
body.
him.
He turns into a slime slug guy because the way
Latex
he describes his
thing.
skin, and he's just like, "I'm rubber."
Yeah. And
So,
and
the
by the
second
end of
time
it, he's like in love with his captor. And I'm just gonna say the whole lack of consent in this thing is really disturbing,
strong.
but
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm rather fascinated about this idea of having an isolated cabin in the woods up in our hoo-has. I mean, cabin in the woods is kind of a writer's dream home, so,
Well,
I mean,
if it's like an Airbnb trip and the ratings are good, go for it.
yeah, but make sure people are coming back from it.
Yeah. And so the second round, Stacy's like, you're gonna bring walkie-talkies, all these gear. I'm gonna write a book about my vagina and the world that's in it. So they come to the conclusion that it's not haunted, it's a little world that is inside her womb.
Yes.
Middle world. Middle world.
Her cabin sounds more like misery, and I can't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor Steve. I mean,
Yeah,
he had his faults.
definitely, definitely.
But he deserved a fighting chance to come back. So he travels further into her vajayjay and he brings. Can you imagine bringing walking like no?
I mean, I just, and I have so much trouble picturing how how her body was able, because he always described her throughout the whole book as being a very tiny person.
Yeah, super
And
tall and slender.
how did a whole man fit in there? Because apparently she watched him, and her things expanded, and just, and that part where he started, when he tried to was returning the first time, but she was like driving
Oh yeah.
forward. Like, how far down did her zipper go? Because, like, he said that, he came out and his lips were like right against her zipper. And I'm like, how does that zippers aren't usually that long? I mean, unless it goes all the way around.
She
I,
must have wore vintage. No I'm joking.
oh, God.
Magical shrinking juice. Yeah, this gives a whole new meaning to down the rabbit hole. It's
I just, mm.
yeah, because I was trying to think of like the choreography of things too. You're all of a sudden sitting in a bit like you're like, was it like this? No.
And like, I feel like he described the walk as she was trying to get into the apartment, and like, apparently his head is kind of hanging out,
Oh, she's
and
waddling.
yeah, and she's got like one hand down there trying to hold his head in, and I feel like that was somewhat accurate.
I What would you do if you saw I would try to render aid, but then I don't know what I would do if I saw a grown man's head.
I don't know. Um, I like to think I'd help, but if she had a whole grown man's head coming out, I might be a little bit more disturbed. Like, okay, I'm gonna help you get this dude out, but then I'm piecing the fuck out. Like,
Yeah.
before he's up and walking, like, we're leaving this door open. Um,
I'll call EMS, honey. But
yeah, like, we need to call somebody because this is beyond my. This is way out of my wheelhouse.
Stacy, man, I mean, Steve would have been out. They would have had a life had she just let him not go back. But she wanted him to go back. He goes back. He brings gear. They're able to communicate to each other
For
through
some time,
the
yeah.
womb. And then he gets deeper into the forest and then we're introduced to Fig, which he has seen Fig in the previous
Yeah,
time he was there,
he just
but he
hid
didn't
from her the
interact
first
with
time.
her. And then he officially meets Fig because she was crying. There you go.
Mhm.
Um, I was concerned. I was like, "What? Don't go." Steve. I think he was actually concerned. Like, well, he did say so Stacy has a memory when she was little of having a imaginary friend, and that this imaginary friend when she was a child made its way out, and she thought this was just all in her head. Is
Yeah.
there she wants him to visit her. Oh, so okay, is there a reason why she wants him to visit her secret land so bad? Because she wants him to discover it so they could write a tell-all book, and she feels that's her purpose.
She also sends him in with a camera to take pictures. He has a whole
Mm.
like, vinyl bag tied to his ankles the second time he goes in. Um, she
Super lubed up.
Yeah, yeah,
So much petroleum was used.
it's
um, and so when he sees Finn, she's like, "Oh, it's you!" Like, oh yeah. So the imaginary friend. That's where we're at. Sorry, totally lost
yeah.
track. So when he hears this crying, he assumes that the woman that is in this other world is in trouble and that it could have been her imaginary friend from when she was a kid. And he feels like, well, that was her friend. I want to go see if she's okay and try to save her. And he comes across her, and I forget the reason why she was crying. I don't
Um,
really think they explained it.
I don't think they really explained it either. I know she
Because
said
then,
she was lonely, she had nobody to play with. That's right,
oh, she
and
thought he was
play
dead.
play was, a euphemism for sex,
Yeah.
and dinner was like craft time.
Yeah, it was tending to your hobbies and crafting. So that was interesting. And
Yeah,
playing was sex. So would crafting be eating dinner?
that's what they did. They had dinner that one time, and it was like craft time at the daycare. Um,
So he sees Fig. The reason why she was crying is because she thought he was never going to come back. And then she sees him and she's like, "Oh, you're here." And
mhm.
he's like, "Yeah, I'm here." And she's like, "Come with me." And he's like, "No, I got to go back." And I think she does invite him to dinner, which is crafting, and they go to this house where there's other people that are like her, but they're all really old and elderly, and she's the youngest of her group.
Mhm.
And then her mom says, like, "Yeah, he was meant to come here and be the person for you to play with." Essentially, that's kind of like, I guess her mom was like psychic and had a vision that this man was going to come for her. And he's like, "No, I got to go." And she's like, huh,
No,
"No." And he's like, "Yeah, I got to go." And she's like, "No."
we're not
And
having that.
he tries to escape, and then these skeletons that she had previously stated were good skeletons were now listening to her orders, and she was like, "Go, skeletons." And then they kidnapped him and put him in
The
vagina
mine
jail.
shaft. They threw him down a mine shaft, and he had to sit there, until she decided he was ready to
Be the
be
one.
her playmate.
Yeah. So he stays there. And he starts questioning things like, why am I not hungry or thirsty? And then he starts to realize that his body is transforming because the way Fig, the imaginary friend, looks in the book or is described is like very CGI, rubbery skin, almost like you don't have any bones in them. And then we come to find out because you don't have bones in your body. And then a skeleton comes out of his body, his own skeleton, and then that's how, I guess, the skeletons that are in the story are made is from previous people who have traveled to this world. We're assuming.
I don't know. I there aren't a whole lot of answers in this book, and I mean, it's a short book, it's like 79 pages. It still
Yes.
took me, like, over 2 days to slog my way through it. 'Cause I was like, I have to step away from this for a little while now, I'm gonna go
Facts.
read anything else."
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So homegirl comes back, Fig. And she's like, "You're ready. Look, you look all sluggish like me." Oh, and then he trains his skeleton to be like a dog. Like he domesticates the skeleton.
Yes, he domesticates his spine,
Because he wiggles his pelvis like a tail. That's how he describes him too.
Yeah.
The skeleton.
And the skeleton like curls up on the rug in front of them, and I mean, I like the skeleton best of them.
Right?
He
Skeleton
was
doesn't know.
yeah, he was the least problematic of the whole story.
Like, I did not ask to be taken out of this body. I just did. So Fig comes back and sees that Steve has turned into
One of
her,
us.
essentially, one of
Yeah,
us. Because he also has like what is described as slimy horns. If you see the book cover, that's Steve is supposed to be the male version of that.
actually, I think I can pull that up.
Yeah, because he also turns red because she's like, yep, accurate description of Fig. That is Fig. And Steve is the male version of that. That's his skeleton, probably in the background, or one of the skeletons who help keep him captive.
Yeah,
And Fig is like, it's time. And he's like, time for what? And she brings him up the mine shaft into this mountain. And, I don't know how else to say this part other than he realizes that Stacy has moved on and is sleeping with someone else because a whole bucket
ejaculate.
of man juice comes pouring into the hole that he had came out of, and he's like, damn, it hasn't even been that long. And she's moved on. And are we gonna drown in this river of semen? That would have been my concern. Like,
And
am I gonna
I'm just
die?
what dude did she get afterwards that is like shooting rivers in there? I mean, I'm just kind of impressed that he's got a whole river. Um,
And they're just looking out into the sky as this semen is just,
yeah,
and to Fig, it's like very romantic. And then I think everyone claps because they realize that Stacy has become impregnated and is
yeah,
now pregnant.
the pink veil goes over and, oh, and the cancer. As they're
Yes.
walking into the town, there's, like, all this corroded black stuff and corroded people who, are completely dead, and she tells him that the cancer ate them or the cancer got them, something like that. Um, and that's all it's ever said about the cancer.
Yeah,
They're
I thought it was foreshadowing. I thought we were gonna find out that Stacy, like the world was cancer and it had to be eliminated. That's where my mind was going. Um, but then so at some point Stacy and Steve talk again. Um, and Steve is like, "Well, you moved on." And she's like, "Well, I just found some random guy at the bar. And if I'm being honest, I thought you ended up with my imaginary friend and I wanted y'all to drown in his semen." Like she mentions that. Um, and I don't know if this is before they talk or after, but he comes to the conclusion that that world has been transferred down from generation to generation and that maybe Stacy's mom had cancer and it was like passed down to her. So we don't know if Stacy has cancer or not in her world.
I don't know,
That's
but he
in
didn't
her
say
vagina.
anything to her.
Yeah. Yes, so we talked about that earlier and I didn't even think about that and I was like
Yeah,
that is pretty messed up to
yeah,
be like,
like,
"Hey, I'm down here and I think you
you
might
got a
have
whole
cancer."
bunch of cancer up in here. It's eating shit
Yeah,
up.
because she also doesn't know about her family and her history because she was adopted.
Yeah,
And
I
so mhm.
I
And
mean, wow. The writing itself, um, we're just gonna block that user. I don't know who that was, but we not having no shady bots.
they're like, I am Steve from the other side. We got the internet.
Yes.
I heard y'all were going to talk about my life.
Huh. Okay, I can't get to those until right now, but I've blocked them on here, so hopefully it won't be showing, or they won't be able to comment any further on this. It won't be showing.
Oh, I can see comments. I didn't know that. Oh my God. I'm such a noob. Oh,
There we go. Okay, and then that one. I'm over on my YouTube, like reporting those, and why did it hid Carrie's comment? I don't understand. But
hmm.
Carrie made a comment, Ant-Man, the Vagina Monologue sequel.
I
I'm like,
mean, Paul
yeah.
Rudd is the sexiest man alive.
And Wi-Fi, y'all? Is that about? I'm not sure what that's about.
Oh, because I said, I think it's because earlier I had mentioned that maybe now Steve has access to Wi-Fi in that world.
Oh.
So he's trying to log on to see this video. He's like, "Hey, I heard y'all were gonna talk about my life." And
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna leave that up there. Actually, I'm gonna move that tab over here so that if I get any more weird comments, that was about the internet up there. Yes.
they're like, "Spectrum, you could get it anywhere."
Yes. Oh, I love it.
E even in another dimension that is harvested inside someone's vajayjay.
Yeah.
Um, so the conclusion of the story is that I don't know if you would call it Stockholm syndrome or what, but him and Fig have like a whole life together now. They're expecting a child. They have a pet skeleton. And
His
there
skeleton.
and then he talks to Stacy for some closure, and he realizes he can't try to escape or go back out because once she's pregnant, there's like that realm is closed off because of the pregnancy, and
Mhm.
that uh we're assuming, because he describes it in the book, is that that world is now going to be passed down to Stacy's daughter.
Yeah. The world upon impregnation moved into the fetus.
Yeah, and the conversation they have is sort of like, well, I see you moved on, because you're pregnant. And she's like, yeah, but he didn't mean anything type of deal. And she says, I miss you. Like, I want to see you. And, maybe I'll come to you one day. Like, you're going to travel up your daughter's. That part, I was like, really, we didn't need to include that.
No, no, but I mean, I'm kind of not surprised that they did include that because the whole thing was really, really problematic in so many ways because of the lack of consent in so many areas that
Mhm.
I'm really not surprised that exactly.
Yeah, that was my thought too, Evelyn.
Yeah.
I was like, WTF. I was like, what the fuck? Like, Stacy, you're willing to go travel to go see, like, come on, girl.
Yeah.
Don't do that to your kid.
um,
Yeah. And, but yeah, so Steve has a family. He's a slug person. I'm just gonna call him a slug demon. I don't know what he
I mean, they
he's
did kind of, yeah,
he's like a slug. Like the way he describes his body, he's rubbery, sluggish.
yeah,
Um, and
latex.
him and Fig are together
Yeah.
forever with their little slug children.
I
And the moral of the story is I told Rhiannon what I thought the moral of the story, because this book was published in 2006, that we need a better healthcare system and more preventative. Stacy needed to go to the gynecologist. Like,
a lot.
moral of the story, go to the gynecologist every year so you can double check if there's any skeletons up your punani. Like,
Yeah. It's been
thank
hilarious,
you for
but I gotta make my father-in-law a plate for dinner. He's finally hungry after, oh, I'm so glad he's
good.
hungry. That's wonderful. I wish him a speedy recovery and no lasting side effects.
Thank you for joining, Evelyn. I'm sorry if we scarred you for life.
Yeah, which we've been talking about this for about 45 minutes now. So let's do some final opinions.
Okay.
What is your final opinion on the book?
You know, I didn't I didn't like a lot of Stacy's character because how she was like just forcing Steve up her the JJ, you know. I know if I asked my husband, "Can you please travel up my vagina?" and he said no, I would respect that, because you should. You shouldn't force anyone to travel up your vagina, Stacy. That's fucking wrong. Um, but the story, it was entertaining. Um, I had Amazon credits when I bought it because it's a $5, it's a 4.99 book. And I had a $3 credit, so I paid 214.
Awesome.
It was 79 pages. It was a short read. I am gonna say this: Homeboy has this book making its rounds. Oh no! Get out of here, you bots! I guess that's the kind of bots you get when you talk about haunted vajays.
Um, I don't know, but I am removing their comments
Good.
because I'm not okay with that. And
We
I
don't
also
need no
reported
scruff.
them.
Good. I don't know if I can. I don't think I can. I think that's on your end.
Yeah, I actually went to YouTube to do it because
Oh, okay. And I would do that also. But it was an entertaining story. I mean, no, it's not the next Jane Austen. It's definitely not the next. Well, it could be the next Hunger Games. If I was gonna say, um, I don't have any regrets about it. It was something to laugh about, and you know, one thing I don't do is that I don't shit over other genres, right? Because
yeah,
I love romance, and a lot of people shit on romance. And I'm like, you don't even know how awesome romance is, okay? For you to be like that. So the fact that bizarro fiction exists and it's a whole genre, and that the author of this book is like one of the fathers of it, like, good for you, badass. You're able to make a living
yeah,
off of rubber vagina. Like, that is awesome.
yeah.
I
The
mean, it's
writing
been
itself
circulating.
not bad.
Yeah.
Um, he did a good job of the actual writing. The content is very Twilight Zone.
Yes.
There's a lot of Twilight Zone in there. Um, it could work well in any one of the Twilight Zone episodes. Um,
Bizarro Twilight.
yeah, I feel like the Twilight Zone was kind of bizarro. So yeah, yeah, I know, but I just I don't want anything to do with it. You know, I try to get rid of those weird things as quickly as I can. Um, and yeah, I just that was like my biggest takeaway. It was a lot of Twilight Zone happening between the whole world up inside of her, and it was a lot of Twilight Zone.
I mean, it was like I would have never thought to write a story
No.
like that. You know, it had its beats, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. It
It
had
was
a
structured.
yeah. It was well written. Just bizarro is absolutely the correct category for it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's been around for 15 years, this book. Good for him. You know, it's his it's doing well still. Um, and I am really interested in traveling to see that Kennedy Elementary in Portland because it is a place that does exist. So Google the pictures when you have time because it's pretty cool. It looks like a cool place to travel.
They have
It does. Totally does, Carrie.
they have a school that it used to be an elementary school that has been turned into a brewery and bar and eatery in Colorado as well.
Really? Oh, I
Mhm.
need to look at that because
Yeah.
the husband and I are renewing our vows in Colorado next year. If all goes
Um,
as, well, in the
if
world, we'll
you're
see.
in Colorado Springs, that's where it's at. I will try to find the place. I when I lived in Colorado Springs, I went there on a pretty regular basis because it was a good place
Ah,
to eat, and they also did like little farmers markets there, and it was just and plus it was a microbrewery, so they had really good drinks.
and I bet even though school wasn't in session, you still got detention.
No, I did not.
You're like, "No comment."
The bathrooms though were a complete blast from the past. Like they kept a lot of the building um true to its past. So like the gymnasium looked really unchanged. The girls' bathrooms were still a lot the same. I mean, they were in good repair, unlike when I went to school. Um, but yeah,
That's cool,
it was a
though.
wild thing. Um, so
I would
yeah,
love to go to a bar like that. So I would have never known about any of those elementary schools that have been converted to, microbreweries and whatnot, if it
oh,
wasn't for this book.
Crystal
Oh,
Brewing, that might be
yeah,
it.
thank you. I definitely wanna check it out.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts and,
Um,
lasting impressions?
I mean, I'm really the lack of consent and the reverse misogyny was disturbing.
Mhm.
And I find that really problematic, and it makes me wonder about this dude and, you know, the Ivy Wild. Yes, that's it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I remember it as, Ivy Wild.
It sounds
Um,
cool too.
it is. It is. So yeah, the lack of consent in the book and the reverse misogyny really makes me think, this guy is probably pretty problematic himself if that's what he writes.
Mm.
Um, and not that you can't write things like that and make it into a lesson or
Mhm.
a growth experience for a character, but it wasn't either of those in this book. It was this is just how it is. Um,
Mhm.
so I felt like that was really problematic, and um, the description of how the pregnancy happened, that was I feel like he doesn't understand how it works, how any of it works.
Just like the coach gym teacher who's teaching sex ed.
Yeah,
I
and
had that. It was so awkward.
and the at the end when he has that last talk with her on the walkie-talkie, and he doesn't mention the cancer at all. I was like, well, that was like super shitty, dude. Um,
Mhm.
and beyond that, it was like the biggest takeaway aside from the problematicness of the whole thing was it's like a really sexy Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And
Disturbing sexy. I don't know what.
yeah, yeah,
It was
and there
sexually disturbing.
yeah, there really is a line in the book where he's like, "It's like I was a giant penis, a human penis."
Oh, and
After
he
he,
gets an erection thinking about that too. He
yeah,
says it because I highlighted it on my Kindle.
yes,
And I was
yeah,
like, "Gonna go back to this."
yeah. So, all right. I hope you all enjoyed this. We're gonna end our live session of talking about the haunted vagina. We read it, so you don't have to. Um,
Yes, and I feel like we're now bonded in this experience.
uh, so, thank you all for
Sorry.
watching.
Sorry if we scarred
And
anyone, but thank
yeah,
you.
we really apologize. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.